Hi, this is Matt Cox here in Central Phoenix, your realtor, and I wanted to basically go over some of the job numbers. Right, there's lots of downsizing from a lot of bloated tech companies that basically, as the economy is opening up, right, and is getting essentially restructuring post 2020, more people are going back to work. More people are going to back to a normal life as a lot of the other restrictions have been lifted. And it's important to note that during this season of quantitative easing, right, we've had lots of increase in the money supply. It's only natural as the money supply is shrinking that tech companies are the first ones to get hit. Soxl, SOXL, which is a semiconductor ETF, for instance, is down over 80%. I think it's actually probably around like 60% today. But that being said, it's down by a lot. And it's important to note that because as you see that as we are going through this particular season, lots of different companies are laying off. You have basically Endpoint and American Title are doing huge layoffs. You had Carvana basically go through bankruptcy. Intel's Q4 earnings were terrible. So even with even Electric Mechanica, who I've been talking about, right? They've had layoffs in December, but I think this is really important. Like as the Q4 data is coming out, and a lot of these companies are showing really negative signs, now is a time to politically speaking to do layoffs, right? Everyone's already unhappy. It's at this point, it's pretty doom and gloom, right? It's not in the best position in terms of housing affordability, inflation, and how it's really hitting the middle class, hitting the middle class hard. Now it's opportune time for a lot of corporations to announce layoffs and to do cuts because they can do it in the guise of a shrinking economy, right? But even though that it's never good publicity to do layoffs, the reality is shareholders love it. They want to know that the leadership and the management is serious. So that's why it's very often you'll see stocks go up even when there's massive layoffs. So even with all the layoffs, right? I thought that this data like came out perfectly, right? And most of the time, if it's good information, it's never going to make as much noise as negative publicity. So that being said, I really wanted to dive in what some of the job market data. Now we know that layoffs are never good, especially for real estate as well. It's never good. So I thought that this was fantastic. Basically, Stansberry was going over some stuff, and here is basically the unemployment data. You can see that it's still below 4. And I think that as even with all these layoffs, we're still below 4. I think that's a good sign. Obviously, we'll see how the rest of Q1 unfolds as the ripple effect of the quantitative tightening and how the Fed has been more hawkish. But the reality is a lot of people who have been paying attention. Um, we'll get to that other data later, actually. But just wanted to go over the unemployment data, still below 4%. And I thought that was some really good news, even in the face of all these layoffs. So even though this is more of like a macro data, right? This is still impacting Phoenix because in a lot of ways, Phoenix is kind of is on the forefront a lot of this growth. And the reality is, when it comes to the West, when it comes to Oregon, California, Washington, and Arizona, frankly, Arizona's economy is doing far better than Oregon, California, or Washington. So, and you can see that by the fact that the amount of startups that are moving here, the number of millionaires that are being minted in Arizona. Um, so there's lot of good things happening as well. Now, okay, even in the face of all these layoffs, right? What's happening in the economy is something called like frictional unemployment. So as a lot of different companies are no longer fit for purpose, right? Like you have Carvana, doesn't mean that those people aren't going to be able to find jobs. It just means that the job in the work necessary in a particular industry is waning while the demand for work in other industries is waxing. So, for instance, when we look at tech as a whole over the next 10 years, tech is still going to be an extremely advantageous place to be because of the advent of artificial intelligence, 5G, autonomous driving, solid state batteries. I mean, lots of things are converging when it comes to technology, and not to mention blockchain. So you have five areas in which basically all the tech all the tech that's currently out there is converging into one monumental economic moment. Keep in mind, right? Um, they were projecting that. Gosh, I can't. I'm trying to remember what the article said from Matt McCall, but basically, it was saying to something to the effect where the internet basically 10x the supply of the economy, and it just grew the economy substantially, right? So why is it important for Arizona? Well, Arizona is becoming a very important tech hub, and a lot of these industries are converging here. So what is happening? Well, even though we see a lots of different layoffs, the reality is, nationally, even speaking, that the demand for labor is still strong. We are still extremely high. The number of job openings in the United States is quite a lot. There's lots of work to be done. And when I think about all right, so sorry, dad duty called, so I want to make sure my son was okay. Basically, yeah, the number of job openings is still really high, still really strong. So even in the face of a lot of layoffs, we have to realize that there are a lot of businesses that have a lot of work to get done. Okay, and not all businesses are created equal. So the businesses that are maybe like, for instance, Electromechanica. Have you ever seen that car in person? I've seen them driving around in Chandler. Okay, it's a very unique car. It's kind of like how someone looks at the smart car. Okay, the smart car isn't for everybody, right? So, and very rarely, a lot of the environmentalists that I know who claim to be environmentalists, a lot of them are still driving around fossil fuel cars. So at the same time, when I look at the Electromechanica, it takes you're going to have to be pretty courageous to buy that thing. So it makes sense that, hey, they're going to have layoffs, right? So it depends on what is going on in every business to business, but not everyone's doing layoffs, right? So like Lucid or Nicola or a lot of these other companies, they haven't announced any layoffs. So it depends on what the business is offering. So and Intel, for instance, their Q4 was terrible. But look at the semiconductor industry of whole. You have NXPI, you have NVIDIA, you have AMD, you have Taiwan Semiconductor. They're all doing fine, right? Why? Because as I was saying, the computer chip industry is booming. We don't have enough computer chips, right? So that being said, when it comes to frictional unemployment, right? One industry may be waning and another industry is waxing, and the people who are in the industry that's waning are going to have to reposition themselves, adopt new skills to get hired into the industry that is waxing. So that being said, the job number still looks strong even in the face of layoffs. So just want to give you some really good, encouraging information. And guess what? Arizona's on the forefront. We're beating out California, we're beating out Oregon, and we're beating out Washington when it comes to job growth and opportunity. So, all right. And if you're interested in getting a link of all the houses that are currently for sale in the Phoenix metropolitan area, go ahead and click the link below. If you're looking for residential multifamily, duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes in the Phoenix metropolitan area, there's also a link down below. Fill out the quick little survey, and you'll click that link, and you're literally going to go to the page. You should get an automatic email, and you should be able to last week click that link and bookmark the links, okay, for both residential multifamily and for houses under $400,000. So, yeah, all that is right there for you, all yours for the taking. All right, and feel free to give me a call anytime, and please feel free to share the video with anyone who is feeling a little black pilled and a little doomer. So, all right, thanks a lot for watching. Have a great day.